Welcome guys to another video. Today we are doing another discussion video for Yu-Gi-Oh! Um, so this is a video by Strike Neos, I think his name is, Software Neos, and it's called Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Sucks. Now I completely disagree. I think Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the best it's ever been. Well, not the best it's ever been. I haven't played Toss, I haven't played Edison, but the Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very, very fun. It's so fun to play if you actually know how to play. And clearly, Software Neos disagrees. Now, mind you, this was released. I am a Master Duel player, and this was released in March of 2023, so a little before this. Now, for context, Sprite had just released in Master Duel, and Tier was, I think, either on its way out or the best deck in the format. So let's see if he brings up anything about Tier in this video.
Interaction in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like playing Fallout 4. Like, you have 4 options to do something, but really 2 of them matter. You have a yes, a no, a yes with a little bit of sass, and then a completely different option that really doesn't do anything. Like, we as the community always gotta put the interaction card whenever we gotta talk about the positives of Yu-Gi-Oh! But to be honest with you, those
like 1.5, man.
interactions only go so far as, do I have the out? If not, I win. If I do, sure, I guess. What do I mean by this? Alright, let's say I'm playing Adamantipator's right now. I make a full board of things that I want to do. I have all this negation out in the field. My opponent then to try to use Regeki. What is my interaction at that stage? Okay, negate the card. Alright. He has another one, I guess I negate that. Oh, he tries to search, I guess I negate that. Oh, I don't have any more negates on hand. I guess it's his turn to do plays now. Like, where's the interaction in all this?
The interaction, I would argue, would come. One, Adamantipator. I mean, Adamantipator wasn't even a good deck when this was made. Also, Adamantipator isn't one of the decks touted for being a very interactive deck. It's known for being a solitaire deck. So in this specific, this is like taking the worst case example of, like, you choose the worst. It's cherry picking. It's literally cherry picking. You're picking a deck that's known for being aggressive. It's like being like, oh, my opponent's playing Drytron and he has Herald of Ultimateness and then 6 fairies in hand. I guess I just can't play the game. Yeah, man, I mean, if you let him get to that point, the interaction comes from the fact that both players in current Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Are playing during each other's turns. So your opponent has hand traps. If you hand trap Adamantipator cards, they aren't doing shit, especially when this video came out. Block Dragon wasn't legal. I think it was legal in Master Duel still, but not legal in the TCG. And Adamanticators in Master Duel still weren't doing shit even with them. It was at probably 1 at this point. And yeah, you could get to something like a Baron, Borreload, and Apple. But like, if you are sitting across from your opponent without anything to interact with your opponent, you probably aren't playing a good deck. If your deck is, in this scenario, he had 2 board breakers. That's pretty good, man. Like, 2 board breakers burn 2 negates and you just have an Apollosa to deal with. You still are interacting with your opponent. Your interaction comes from the place of, let's try to navigate the Apollosa negations in order to properly get to my combo and potentially OTK or potentially set up a board to win on my next battle. So alternatively, you as the Adamantipator player decides the interaction comes from deciding when to use your interruptions. So in this scenario, he activated Regeki Dark Hole. Obviously, you're going to use both to protect your field, but how often are you seeing people play board breaker, board breaker, board breaker, board breaker, and then still being able to survive that? Yeah, that's a crazy ass hand, to have. I guess Tenpai would be a good example, but Tenpai, again, is not touted for being an interactable deck. You, as the Adamantipator player, your decisions are, in, is this worth negating unless it loses me the game on the spot to not negate? Obviously, the second Dark Hole, you can choose. I mean, like, you don't have to negate every search. You still have the Apollosa to choose to get through impactful cards, and your opponent still has to battle through the Apollosa. There's still a lot of choices in interaction. It's not just negate the first 2 cards that your opponent activates.
I more so mean where is the good interaction. Like at least, like these cards are old as dirt, but at least some minus cards like Sakuretsu Armor and Torrential Tribute needs to make you at least evaluate the move that you're trying to do when you activate this card. Like Torrential Tribute, sure, you can do it on a summon, but you can also wait before your opponent makes an even bigger like board to OTK you in order to destroy more monsters, rather than just do it immediately.
This is like the same thing I was saying with Apollosa. You can either choose to negate your opponent's, unless you're this is literally the same thing with the, unless it's something that immediately wipes your board. You don't need to negate with Dragite. You don't need to negate with Perfection. You don't need to negate with Apollosa. You're still thinking. You're actively thinking. I have 3 Apollosa negates. Do I worry about this? Because then, like if you have, and I'm playing a lot of Malice right now in Master Duel, and you're gonna end on a Link 2 Apollosa with oftentimes 1600 attack. So if I use my 1 Apollosa negate and I don't have an underground on the field, oftentimes it's going to be walked over by the normal summon for the turn. Like, it's just nothing I can really do about that. So this is like the exact same thing. Is it worth losing my Apollosa? And even in Adamantipator's, you're going to get like a 3 material Apollosa. It's going to die to a powerful enough normal summon. And then you lose 2 negates. So you have to choose wisely. This is the same thing.
Sakuretsu Armor, you have to make the decision of, all right, which monster do I want to destroy, and how do I want to go about this? When it comes to like a combo board that is basically unbreakable, or a control board that literally makes you doesn't do anything, where is the good interaction in making your opponent not play the game? Like you are basically not playing Yu-Gi-Oh at that point. You are playing Solitaire. And I know it's been a joke like throughout years that Yu-Gi-Oh is a Solitaire game, but most of the time it kind of feels like that unless you draw the outs to it. And I'll get into more of that later. Negation has just been something that's been a rampant problem in Yu-Gi-Oh for the past like 5 years, and since we've already talked about it, let's go and talk about combo versus control boards. I hate the combo versus control type of aspect of like debate because it's two sides of the same coin. You're still letting your opponent not play the game. More than likely, if you play a combo board, you have a board that has many negates that you pray that your opponent can't deal with. If you have a control sort of deck, you basically play a card that makes your opponent play so slow that you get more advantage than they ever will. So honestly, it's two sides of the same coin, and it's just not good. Instead of say designing,
I mean, like, I do agree that the pictures of cards he also, first of all, Vanities has been banned for years at this point, but I will agree somewhat. Now he's using terms incorrectly. He's using control instead of stun. Stun decks and combo decks are fundamentally one and the same. He's right, they are. If a combo deck gets to go uninterrupted, it effectively is a stun deck. However, there's a fundamental difference between stun and combo, and that's combo actually takes, you're gonna hate me for this, combo takes skill. Whereas a stun player might just set 4 pass, a stun player or a combo player will have to map out the combo, work around hand traps that are potentially available to their opponent, and if they get hand trapped, how do I recruit? How do I play around Nibiru? How do I play around Bystials? How do I play around if you're playing Master Duel Maxi, or if you're playing TCG the Fuuloses or the Molcharmies? There's a lot of thinking about, like, I got drolled, how do I go now? Stun, you just set 5 pass. There is no thinking. Control fundamentally differs from this. People do not make a good like jump between control and stun, in that the sense that they get lumped together. But I'm trying to think of a good example of a control deck. A Labyrinth is more of a control deck, where they trade very favorably for themselves, because most control decks now need to trade favorably for themselves, but they're still trading for cards for opponents' cards. So, like, yeah, there's stun tools in Labyrinth, like D-Barrier, but stuff like, native, like, non-evil trap cards, like Ghastly Bitch, and I guess you could say DDDK, or DDKC. These cards are good control cards, and Labyrinth sets up a good control loop of controlling the field. Like the field spell pops cards, lovely rips cards, Mommy continues to summon herself. It just generates resources at the same time as denying your opponent of resources. Combo differs from control in the sense that combo wants to pool all of its resources into an unbreakable board. And stun differs from both, because stun pulls all of its resources into an unbreakable board, but it doesn't do anything to do so. It just sets 5 and passes.
your game right or actually trying to find ways in order to make sure this problem never existed in the first place. Instead of that, we get hand traps, which honestly are just band-aids for the game. Why do I say that? Alright, let's think about it like this. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has gotten so rampant in its advantage, in its boards, in its ways for players to basically only play with themselves, that we have to have cards that you randomly put into a deck, hope that you draw them, and use them against the opponent in order for them not to get as much advantage. So instead...
This is like one of the biggest points of, or biggest critiques against modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And I love it because it almost makes no sense. He's complaining that modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks require deck slots for hand traps. God, I'm watching a YouTube video in the background and I can't think. But he's complaining that modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks require hand traps in order to stay competitive. But he's saying right now specifically, oh, you just have to hope you draw them. I really hope I remember to edit this well, because I'm going to put up a GOAT meta tier deck list. Half of the cards in a GOAT deck, you're going to see over and over and over again. And the deck, you're just hoping to draw a Reborn. You're hoping to draw a Raigeki. You're hoping to draw your Graceful, your Part of Greeds. What a strategy. Yu-Gi-Oh's always been like this, where in the most competitive scene, like in any game, there's always going to be a most competitive character. There's always going to be a most competitive item. There's always going to be a most competitive deck. This isn't unique to Yu-Gi-Oh! If you go to Pokemon top tiers, you're not going to be able to slap together 60 cards in a fucking paper bag with a rubber binder or a rubber band and top an event. You're going to have to play one of the most meta decks.
Instead of solving the problem and not trying to make these decks do as bonkers shit as they do, what we're going to do instead is buy cards to randomly put in our decks and randomly draw in order themselves, that we have to have cards that you randomly put into a deck, hope that you draw them, and use them against the opponent in order for them not to get as much advantage. So instead of solving the problem and not trying to make these decks do
Firewall Dragon at this point was just about rotted. It was nowhere near the problem. It was so far away from the problem. It wasn't even in the same fucking zip code as the problem. Firewall Dragon blows now. It's used in Malice because Malice can vomit out a Link 4 like that. But Firewall Dragon fucking sucks, man. I don't know why he keeps putting that out.
As bonkers shit as they do, what we're going to do instead is buy cards to randomly put in our decks and randomly draw in order to make sure that we can at least play the game. I'm sorry, but that design aspect is fucking terrible.
This has been how the game has been fundamentally designed since day one. You will need to play these staples in order to figure your deck. If you want to win, you need to play these staples in order to win. You're not gonna go to... if you were in 2002, you're not going to an event with fucking vanilla beats and beating freaking GOAT control, man.
Let's say you use these hand traps, right? You use them first turn. Your opponent goes first. You activate most of your hand traps like Ash and Effect Veiler and things like that, and they basically end their turn there. Alright, you draw your cards. Alright, you make your board and everything. You attack and you win. Alright, what was done here? What was so fun about this? What was so fun about this thing? Your opponent literally didn't get to play anything, and you just got to do whatever you want. And to be honest, that kind of sucks. Like, not only just looking at it, but playing that way is sort of just boring. Like, there's no enjoyment that I can ever feel about drawing a random card from my deck in order to make sure that my opponent doesn't play, and then I proceed to just do whatever I want because they didn't get lucky enough in order to get their stuff.
See, this is another thing that people who don't like Yu-Gi-Oh! Fundamentally misunderstand about Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, I was gonna say there aren't any cards that one card stop any decks now, but I was gonna say Lancia. This came out before Malice, guys. This was way before Malice. Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks operate on such a fundamentally different wheel and different universe than historical Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks, that modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks, through Ash, through Droll, through Nibiru, through Imperm, through Veiler, through everything, you're gonna get to some form of a field, right? If you're going first, it's gonna be a very shit field, but you are also playing these cards. So you can also interact on turn 2 and go third on turn 3. There's more than just I either draw the cards and win or I draw the cards and lose. That's not how the format's played. This is a very a fundamentally detached take from modern Yu-Gi-Oh!
But hand traps aren't the only terrible interactions in this game. There are also going second cards that were made that just aren't good either. But IDK, most of these going second cards are a good reason why you can go second. Okay, well, that doesn't really matter because they're also bad. Let's look at things such as Dark Ruler No More, Super Poly, Kaijus. All these cards, literally, your opponent gets no response to them, and they can't do anything about it. What is so fun and what is so, like, skillful about using a card that literally makes it so there's no interaction with the player?
Ooh, he's gonna piss me off with this one. Dark Ruler No More famously isn't spell speed 4. You can't activate monster effects. This is actually. So if you have layered negation, you can chain a spell or trap to DRNM, and you can negate it with something like a Hot Red Archfiend. Something like that. Or there's other things you can do. You can react with other monster effects after that. It's honestly like, this is what I mean. Like, the interaction at this point, Yu-Gi-Oh is still so highly skilled that being able to do something like this and set up a field in such a way that it doesn't get broken by one build board breaker is very, very, very skillful. And he's complaining about super poly. I fucking hate super poly. It's a necessary evil. These going second cards, yeah, they suck, but they're a necessary evil. Okay, you aren't like, it's not good that they exist, but like, he's complaining about going first, he's complaining about going second. Fundamentally, you don't like the game, you don't enjoy the game. So don't, like, it doesn't suck, it's just not for you. You don't enjoy the people. Plenty of people enjoy the concept of, and also most people aren't looking to go second, you know. So these going second cards aren't that popular anyways. But fundamentally, you dislike the game. The game's fine. You fundamentally dislike the concept of the game. It's not that the game sucks. You just do not enjoy playing it.
I also believe that FTKs as a concept just shouldn't exist in this game. Even if you were to say that a deck doesn't rely on FTK, that it's simply an option, it doesn't matter because it's the same problem with interaction in general. It doesn't give your opponent a chance to play the game, and it just creates another aspect of just like shitting on someone that literally couldn't do anything.
It's kind of crazy. First of all, there hasn't been a good FTK in years besides maybe the Super Heavy Samurai FTK. Maybe. Gimmick Puppet FTK fucking blows. It's not good. And he's complaining about it. You can interact with it. Well, kind of. Not really the Gimmick Puppet if they get fucking the field spell, I think. But you can interact with these FTKs. Negate Nurse, you can negate Cannon Soldier. There's shit you can do. It's not uninteractable. You can interact with them, bro.
About it because maybe they weren't lucky enough in order to get the hand traps that they can in order to get rid of that. Like, getting unlucky and not drawing protection shouldn't be punished. So when an aspect of this is in the game and it's just not done about in any sort of way, it kind of just shits on a player for no reason whatsoever. When you can
He's saying that the fact that these random cards are in there just to draw, that's like, again, I really want to hammer this down. This is how the game's always been. It's always been like this, man. You aren't like expecting to have Raigeki Duster fucking vanities in your hand. You're just expecting to draw them over the course of a game. It's just slower. It's slower. It's the same exact.
Easily just either make a rule in order to change it, or just try to make it so that this would never happen in the first place. Generic cards in general are also a problem with this game. I don't know about anyone else, but I haven't seen a card like Crystron Needle Fiber, Rusty Bardish, and Firewall Dragon made, and there haven't been problems.
How is he still Bardish? He's complaining about Bardish in 2023. Tier Elements was meta. Hold on, when did his Shizu tier come out, man? The fuck? He's complaining about Rusty Bardish and fucking Firewall Dragon in a tier 0 format. How, dude? How? I'm so confused. And again, generic cards. God, dude, I fucking hate Feather Duster, Raigeki, Monster Reborn, Pot of Greed, Graceful Charity, Forceful Sentry, Delinquent Duo, fucking Trap Duster. These generic cards, they're ruining everything.
Like, I don't understand the point of a generic card when the purpose of it is probably just going to increase tier 1 decks to an absurd amount of level. Not only that, but these cards also make it so that other cards that aren't the problem are dealt with first before they ever...
He put Fairy Tale Snow. He thinks Firewall Dragon is the problem. He thinks this guy fucking unironically thinks Block Dragon wasn't. He thought Kawaki Meru Guardian was the problem.
Get touched at all. It's a facet of the game that doesn't make any sense, more so because you make problems on purpose and you know it's going to be a problem if it's generic, but it's never going to be dealt with until too many people complain about it, or it just doesn't make money. Like, monetary value and power creeping for no reason is probably the only reasons why I see these cards keep being made over and over again. Do you know why when people side deck someone, it's usually to, instead of deal with a specific archetype, is to deal with a type of deck? It's almost like most decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are only different because their gimmick gives a person more advantage than someone else.
Well, like, first of all, that's not true at all. Like, completely not true. Tier people were putting shit in like Silent Graveyard, man. Like, you aren't siding in for, yeah, you're siding in for generic stuff, but you also side in stuff for specific counters. You know, a good example is, well, right now I don't want to keep bringing up Lancey or Chaos Hunter, but I want to bring up stuff like fucking maybe Mushroom Man #2. Or a good example is the Ally of Justice that was better DD Crow against what's it called? Drytron. That's a good example. People were putting that in when Dartron was meta. Like, there are hundreds of countless of examples of hyper specific cards that just shit on a playstyle that people actively side decked. Yeah, they put in both. You put in generic stoppers and you put in specific things to deal with a matchup. And this is also weird because, like, you're like kind of complaining that the meta's not like not locked in enough. What's the opposite of diverse? You're complaining that the meta's too diverse to play specific counters instead of like generic counters. Isn't that like the opposite of what you would want? Side decking generic means that you're planning for dozens of examples. You don't want a meta where you are playing just like fucking tier counters, Shizu counters, Kashtira counters. That's not fun.
So instead of actually meaning, it means that your gimmick doesn't matter. And not only do gimmicks don't matter, but even when you have a deck that can...
Dog, what the fuck is Flamvel Fire Dog on doing? It's not oh my god. This is like crazy. Like, Flamvel, Lavals and Flamvels, I don't know what is this one of the Reptilians? The problem isn't that these decks don't have negations or generate advantage, it's that they fucking blow. They were made in like 2004, man.
Can do a cool thing, it doesn't matter because it doesn't have the advantage or the negation in order to be good at doing that thing or to get wins because of it. Ghost Trick's ability to put cards face down, Atlanteans when their gimmick was primarily only to attack directly, Triamids with their ability in order to do something once their field spell was replaced. These effects, these sort of things that a deck does, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because the gimmick doesn't...
The gimmick doesn't matter because the cards are bad. Atlanteans you can't really complain about right now. Also, Atlanteans was meta. Am I wrong? Atlanteans was like very good. Triamids were never good. And Ghost Tricks. Bro, look at Mimigul. Mimigul is an archetype specifically for flipping shit face down. And it was good. It was good. It was not bad. It wasn't playable. Right? It was a little too slow. But it was good. It wasn't unplayable. The problem with Ghost Trick isn't that it flips shit face down. It's that you needed... Well, I guess that is the problem. Because how the fuck are you getting 2 Ghost Tricks on your field? What's your play? Set 1 pass?
Tie with negation at all. Or it doesn't tie with getting advantage at all. It makes the game boring and kind of...
It's so weird to be like, oh my god, no one wants to play these decks because they don't generate advantage. That's like saying no one wants to play these decks because they fucking suck. And that's why the game is bad. No one wants to drive my car because it doesn't have an engine in it, and that's why car buyers are shit.
A terrible feeling when you play someone because the gimmicks that make your deck what it is doesn't really matter in the grand...
He put 6 samurai! He put 6 samurai! These decks were all good! Well, not Ancient Warriors. These decks were crazy! Am I going... Oh my god. By the way, I haven't watched this video.
Scheme of things, because the end goal is just to make sure that your opponent doesn't play the game.
Six Samurai spams feat monsters using Bushido counters. Ancient Warriors, they want to go second, and they get bonus effects for having opponents' monsters on the field. Fire Fist, they revolve around using their spell and trap of cards to get crazy effects. Unless you have specifically Fire Fist of the or Brotherhood of the Fire Fist, Spirit, Eagle.
Game. At that point, most decks are just clones of something else, and really the only thing different about yours versus the next is just
There's leagues of difference between all three of those, by the way.
aesthetics. My final thing with negation is that memorable moments, they come very, very few when you actually implement negation in the game, especially when there's too much of it. Because it makes it so that instead of trying to do something in a different way, you have to use a card in order to bait something else, or use a card in order to bait out a negation just so you can do something. I have the perfect sort of story that can explain something like this.
He's complaining because you have to be smart with how you use your cards. He's complaining because you have to have strategy to how you activate your cards.
4 to 5 years ago, my friends went to our very first tournament. It was crowded, and the atmosphere was a little more tense than how it is because we sort of had to deal with other people who we didn't know anything about. First round, I was against a hero player. Now, to make it short, both of us won 1 game each, so we went to our final game. Before the tournament, I decided that since Pot of Desires was a card that was
a really funny joke with the "It's time to get my gay on," by the way.
was practically used in that point because Ash Blossom wasn't in the game, I might as well inside a card in order to punish a player that uses that. So I side in a card called DD Dynamite. This card does 300 damage for each banished card that my opponent had. So when they use that card, it would deal 3,000 to the opponent. Now, of course, the hero player goes first, and basically what he does is he both activates Pot of Desires and a hero lives. Basically, he only has 4,000 life points. At this point, it's my turn, and I already drew the DD Dynamite. So the only thing that I'm worried about is to do at least 1,000 points of damage to him in order to win the game. Now, it's hard, because I was using DDDs at the time, and going second against a Dark Law is very bad, because once you fusion summon, almost all your materials in order to use for a comeback goes to the banish zone, so it would be hard. So I decided in order to attack the small monsters like Prisma, and as soon as I did, and I saw that his life points went lower than 3,000, I knew it was time. So I set DD Dynamite and I let his turn begin. He drew Dark Hole, completely destroyed everything on the field, and basically all my board was gone. There was nothing that I had left.
That was also very funny, the Amaewa motion there.
Except DD Dynamite on the field. He of course summoned another Dark Law, thought it was game, proceeded to attack me, and then he died. He was mad as fuck ever since, and I made the moment of a lifetime. Now, do you know something that probably could have ruined a moment like this? A fucking negate! Usually the decisions that Konami makes, especially when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, is just to obtain more money. Now, usually I wouldn't have a problem with this because, of course, businesses have to make money in some sort of way. It seems like almost all the decisions that Konami makes is only to make money. There has been...
I don't know, like, it's so weird, man, to complain about the concept of a negate. Like, you're sharing a story where you won by side decking a shitty side deck card that literally has no relevance in any other matchup. And you're going, man, it would have been so bad if he also, you're like, first of all, you're playing DDD, which, you know, the spreadsheet deck. And you're playing against hero. I mean, like, you know, would have made a more interesting game if you had the capacity to do anything besides play with yourself while your opponent was comboing through fucking heroes. Like, that's the interaction of the game, man. It's not just I need to play 40 shit trap cards that only have 2 relevances in any matchup.
If a card isn't as powerful as it once was, and it doesn't need to be banned anymore, don't you think that it should be, you know, unbanned? Apparently Konami doesn't think that. Here's a few freaking examples.
Trap infecting Buyer Virus isn't banned. These could all come off. They all do nothing.
This is just unnecessary. If the ban list is supposed to be here in order to just, you know, correct wrongdoings and to, like, actually prioritize balancing the game for what it was, then why are these cards even here? To piggyback off that, why was there so many cards that actually deserve to be banned, but aren't banned? Tell you what, it's money. And that is terrible for a lot of reasons. One of the big reasons, though, is that basically it gives Konami a pass in order to keep power creeping and to keep making more powerful cards.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the nightmares were dealt with pretty quickly.
Because they can get rid of it after about a year's worth of time. Like, why stop making more powerful cards when you can just make them, get more money for them, and then just ban them as soon as a year's worth of time occurs? So instead of getting rid of problems right away because it's the right thing to do, what you're going to do is leave it there for a long time and basically try to sell us the solution, which is hand traps.
Well, they're printing powerful cards, and he's saying you should just ban them instead of printing better cards. Here's the thing, man. People will wail for the I wail for these cards, and if you pulled some shit like a white binder, right? Like QCR white binder, you're so excited, you see the value of it skyrockets, and then they ban it. It's bad for your investment. It does not make you want to buy more cards, and you're not going to play the game. You're not going to be able to play the white binder that you just pulled. It makes sense to keep problematic card to try and shift the problem away. Yes, for shit like Snake Eyes, it had to be taken out back and shot. But there's a lot of decks that's just this isn't that good anymore, so it's getting pushed out of the meta. So it doesn't need to be banned. Like Firewall Dragon. It probably should have been banned back then. Now it does nothing.
And guess what happened after it got support? Now it's boring. Do you want to know why? You don't need to determine what cards you actually need in order to fusion summon these cards. You can do basically any sort of combo in order to get these cards. It doesn't take much brain power in order to get a combo in order to summon these cards. And then, even then, now it's just a boring control deck rather than like a situated aggro deck. You've basically made a better deck, but now it's incredibly boring and incredibly uninteresting.
I actually agree with this. I think they need to stop killing decks or playability. Or decks uniqueness for the sake of playability, and for them to not be good at all anyways.
Other thing that I hate is that we have too many archetypes in order to support in this game. Like, I understand you need to keep making new archetypes in order to like make the game fresh, but the same could be said by just updating cards that you already have. Why is it that we have close to like more than 300 archetypes, but over half of them are either not even playable, or like a quarter of them are just like undersupported as all hell? Like, it's a double-edged sword, but it has all the negatives. So like, say you come out with an archetype that isn't good from the start and it only gets more mediocre as it goes. Even if the person loves it that much, they're gonna want to not play the deck as much because it's just not as powerful as say something like a tier 1 or 2 deck would be.
I mean, not everyone's playing in tournaments. There's people playing locals, there's people playing with friends, and a lot of people just are big fans of the decks. And if we had less archetypes, it would be a much less interesting game, to say the least. Also, there's also lots of niche interactions that these decks can end up being like useful. We'll see, like, I'm trying to think of a good example. I guess Tyr and Lightsworn being good together, or damn, I'm trying to think. I can't really think of anything else. But there's lots of like little small synergies like that. I guess Punks and Gold Pride.
But let's say you make a deck good from the start and you just gave it so much support that it does become a tier 1 or tier 2 deck. Well, now it has the possibility in order to get hit, and now it's even worse off than it would be if it was just bad from the start. Like, you'll never win as a consumer. You have to have a deck that is okay to use, where it's good enough in order to contend, but not good enough to where it's on the radar. And those type of decks are usually very like little and far between. Like, don't get me wrong, I can understand why people don't like diverse sets because you have to plan for a lot of things, but making 3 decks that like are leagues above everything else isn't the answer either. It kind of creates what
I mean, this is like one of the fan favorite. These weren't the only playable decks. Why didn't he put Orcus? He put the rest of the toss shit.
called the Loop of Suffering. The Loop of Suffering goes as follows. You release a tier 1 archetype, have it be played for a bit, nerf it, maybe to oblivion, and then after that, release a whole new fucking tier 1 archetype. Now on paper that doesn't sound bad, because certain card games like Card 5 Vanguard and like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon, they have tier 1 like decks, but they're not leagues above everything else, and if they are, they're hit properly. The problem is, Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't do that at all. It's very insufferable. You will always leave a tier 1 there for so long in order to collect your funds, get rid of it, and then just make better.
Yeah, it's also weird to complain about a deck being tier 1. Tier 1 isn't that good, Like, it's strong, yeah. If there's no other tier 1s, it's the best in the format. But a tier 2 deck and a tier 3 deck can also take wins off of tier 1 deck pretty easily. I mean, it's not like tier 0 where it's oppressive.
Cards that are just better than the other one. So at that point, you just like are getting every single worst decision ever from Konami. Not only are you getting power increases for no reason because they want to make more and more decks powerful for some reason, but not only that, but you have to deal with the fact that these cards will be here and will stay here because they need money, rather than they should leave because we know for a fact that they're too powerful. Every single tier 1 deck that has ever been hit ever, Konami knew they were too powerful for what they are, and then they banned it immediately. Why do we have to keep doing this? Why can't we just have cards? Why can't we just have a few tier 1 decks going here? We can make them last for 2.
I mean, yeah, they get hit, but it's not because a lot of the time it's not because the cards are problematic. A lot of times because they want to make people play the new set, which is also a problem. But like could freaking Lacrima come off the ban list? Probably not. Could some of the Snake Eyes cards come off the ban list yet? No, probably not. But in a year's time, yeah, I mean, sure, there's lots of... It's weird to To be like, Konami's making good cards again.
3 years because no one is bored of it, because no one is overwhelmed by it, and then we can just make more archetypes and hit stuff that are appropriate rather than only hit it because it's not making money. I also hate the idea of a one-card solution when it comes to decks, and what I mean by this is that they make a single card in order to fix the deck, rather than actually think up of ways to make the deck interesting or have to rely on that sort of card in order to play. Some examples I can think of right now are the Brotherhood Link and the Malefic card, Malefic Territory. Hey, you know the
It's kind of weird how he's not using the Link art for the Link monsters.
gimmick of you need like your continuous spells in order to make these cards work. You know, you gotta actually make a decision in order to get rid of resources that you might need in the future and like just use them as a source. Well, now you don't have to think about that, and now combos are just so easy that it's just not even worth talking about. Malefic Territory is even worse than this because it's a one-card thing that gives you your field spell, and then it negates the effects of Malefic monsters to not let you attack with more than one. Now, this is more problematic because instead of putting the time and effort, probably to just like errata the card's flaws and like give players a bone and just make Malefics better, instead of that, let's just give them one card that you need to pray that you draw and hopefully it works out for you. Another thing
That's so weird to be like. The reason why they printed Malefic Territory was so they wouldn't have to go back and fucking put you can control more than one Malefic monster on the field or whatever the text says. Like, you want them to spend the time to print to erase that shit from every Malefic monster and then be like, if you're playing the modern format, you cannot play the Malefics that say you can only control one Malefic monster. Instead, they give you a card that searches your field spell and does it for you. It also like has a cool, unique effect to place the effect on the field spell. Like, that's cool.
like this is giving like old decks new upgrades, but you still have to play the old stuff. Like, I understand that I've been talking about how, oh, you need old stuff in order to like do plays, but sometimes the old stuff is just so bad that you don't even want to play it anymore, and you just want to focus on what the gimmick had beforehand and just try to make that better. Alright, what do I mean? Alright, Blue Eyes and Dark Magician. Why is it that certain cards like these, we have to rely on using the normal monster that we have been using forever in order to play? Why can't we just get the same card, the same name, and just give it a better effect? That way we can just make the cards better than what they are.
So he wants more power creep then. He doesn't want you to have to play. This is so weird, right? Like, he wants you. He's complaining 2 seconds ago about Fire Fist monsters not having to go with the main idea of sending this continuous spell traps, which, I mean, fair. I think that's pretty crazy that a card like Cardinal or Eagle or whatever it was exists. And the deck still blows, by the way. By the time Cardinal came out, it fucking sucked. But now he's saying, I want a better Dark Magician, I want a better Blue Eyes, so I can fundamentally change what the deck does.
Instead we just rely on our nostalgia and just keep using these old cards for no reason, when we can just be improving them to a status more than what it is, rather than keep the limitations that we have to just do nothing. I keep referencing it, but I never actually like showed you, but I've actually made a chart of almost every single archetype in the game. Notice how I say almost, so don't give me shit below.
What the fuck? This is so bad.
Alright, I've put together our tier list, and no matter what is...
March 4th, by the way. This was after tier, I knew it! Check this shit out, man. This is what... I don't know who this is. This is what he says is the tier list. Versus BA! He put fucking B... Alter... Oh, Frog? What year is it?
Also, it's a little inaccurate, especially with all this.
Danger. He put dark. Okay, these tiers better be shit. Or these better be tier 3 is unplayable shit. This was post tier format, by the way, mind you. When hold on, dude. Okay, the new Unchained shit isn't out yet. This better be unplayable shit.
The support coming in, but we'll vibe with it. There's a total.
Goki. He put Goki in tier 4. He put Naturia. He put Strikers. He put Strikers. He put This could not have been made in 2023. He put Mathmech. Do you know what card came out during fucking tier format? Circular came out. He has Sky Striker in the same tier as Sylvan Simorg and Shiranui. He has Mathmech as the same fucking tier as not Lunalite, as fucking Girgia and fucking Malefic. He has Dark World. This guy hasn't played the game. He hasn't played the game, much less fucking. He hasn't heard of these decks. That's
Of about 249 cards over here in like all these tiers. And if you're
oh my god, I'm gonna kill myself. Let's see what he puts in this shit, bruh. Gishki. He put Gishki. He does know that fucking Gishki Sprite was like a tier 2 deck. Crystal Beast. Bro, I need a good tier list. Hold on. Alright, I know, cringe, but here's some AI. Gishki was a rogue. Oh, man. Ninja! He put Ninja. Do you know what they got by then? Fucking Mizon. He has Ninja in the same shit as fucking Nephthys, dude. He put Zodiac in the same shit as the Tin Dangler.
tier 4, that means that literally half of these cards are quite literally
Yeah, that's about fine.
almost unplayable, and the other half are either, or at least a quarter of that half, are undersupported, and another quarter of that half doesn't matter. So it's a little problematic. One final thing that is just a nitpick with me is that I hate popular decks. Not specifically that because they are popular and they're used by everyone, it's because Konami really goes out of their way.
Popular. Dude, this couldn't. How was this made in March 26th, 2023? I don't get it. I don't get it.
away in order to support those decks rather than, you know, support decks that need it, which makes sense at first because, you know, they're popular. Of course they're going to get cards. But, like, when it's so immense and when it's, like, so big that decks like DDDs and, like, Dragonides before the support were, like, getting basically droplets of support compared to these guys. Like, here's most of them, but decks like Heroes, Shadows, Lightsworns, things like that, if you're not that caliber, then it's a gamble if you're actually going to get support. It is probably going to be unbearably long, or if you get it, it's going to be unbearably short, and it won't actually do anything. Alright, final thing. I've said a lot of things about Yu-Gi-Oh! And how I don't like a lot of what they do nowadays, but it only seems fair that I at least have, if not all the solutions, then at least some of the solutions to basic problems that I think can be fixed. Now, if I couldn't influence Konami from the very start and probably start the game from scratch, this is probably what I would do. Number 1, each player can only take 2,000 effect damage each turn. That way you can't FTK first round, and
That does nothing, by the way. That does so little to fix anything. You stop maybe 2 decks.
for things that give damage, they can give damage, but they're gonna have to do something else instead of kill in the first turn. Number 2, get rid of Floodgate-like cards. We can stop it with the Mystic Mind and True King of all calamities and all.
Oh my god, so fucking base. I love this guy now.
And whatever. We don't need those to be a part of the game. Number 3, this potentially is probably gonna rustle a few. You can get rid of just generic cards that also help with negation. So like Appaloosa, Ash Blossom, things like that. You can just get rid.
Negate Ash. Or get rid of Ash. That's crazy. If you're playing a deck.
Of. It's not a lot, but it's all I can do since, you know, I'm not Konami. I just want all of you to know that this has taken a long time to make, and more than likely I will keep trying to make videos in the future. But
Alright, well, that's the end of that. Don't give hate to software neos. This is my take of it, right? This is a 50 fucking minute thing. Holy man, I've been talking for a minute. This guy does not play Yu-Gi-Oh! He hasn't touched Yu-Gi-Oh! And he will never play Yu-Gi-Oh! And yeah, Appaloosa is a bad card that was designed terribly and should be banned. It's not fun to play against. It's not a good card, right, I agree. And generic negates, sure, those can go, sure. But stuff like Ash and Veiler, Imperm, pick your favorite, and then board breakers, you need to understand that if these go, the game becomes unplayably bad. Can you imagine how annoying it would be to just have to sit there going second? I would play Subway Surfers on my phone. This is, again, where he doesn't understand the concept of interaction in Yu-Gi-Oh! Nowadays in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Also, if your deck dies to 1 Ash, you're not playing a good deck. You weren't winning the game anyways. The skill and interaction comes from avoiding, dodging, or playing around hand traps. Like I said before, you play around 5 summons to avoid nib, even if you don't know. You just do it because it's smart, and you won't die if you get nibbed. Or if you do get hand trapped and it's unfixable, you have options to go into. That's what the fun of the game is. It's a good game. It's fun. There's lots of problem solving, and you have to think. It's not just click yes on every negate. It's not just ash this, ash that. And there is a lot of skill level to the game. So, yeah, it just feels like this guy maybe played a little bit of Master Duel. That tier list is so fucking shocking me, by the way. But the game's fine. There's not a lot. Back in 2019, 2018, when it appears this video was fucking made, man. It seems, yeah, the game blew. Every deck was a pseudo FTK deck that set up a bajillion negates, right? Nowadays, the game is just, I will recur my material and make more on my next turn unless you kill me. That's fine. The game, Malice is very fun to play. Malice isn't very fun to play against because it's so resilient to hand traps. But it's fine like how it is. And this video just exposes fundamentally he does not like the concept of Yu-Gi-Oh! He said I would make them restart the game from scratch. Oh yeah, what's the game then, buddy? What's the game then, baby boy? Because it would just do the exact same fucking thing again. Anyways, don't send Software Neos hate, but I'm right, he's wrong.